Today we're here with Tyler from Trap Style. He is somebody who created a Facebook fan page that was pretty epic, had about 2 to 3 million followers, and is still really avid in the trap style community, dubstep community, and music industry. And I thought this would be an opportunity for us to talk about business, your business, and I think that I'd like to contribute to your business in any way I can, and you came down here to our mansion. I'm really glad that you trusted me to help you out, you know?
Appreciate it.
And I guess I just want to answer any questions you had that I could help you out, because I just want to create a way where I could just add as much value to your company. I think what you're doing is epic.
Okay, so I actually prepared a couple questions for you. First off, you just introduced me. I'm Tyler from Trap Style, and we're not friends. I'm also in a dubstep duo. I'm a musician myself as well. I kind of wanted to come up here and ask you a few things. I thought of a couple things off the top of my head, but most importantly, the first question I wanted to ask is, why do you do what you do?
Well, in terms of RSD, I got into this because I got really passionate about picking up girls, and that was my passion, kind of like how you got into the passion of music. And when I hired people, people's livelihoods were depending on me. So I kept doing it because what we were doing was helping a lot of people, but also because these guys were loyal to me. And I'm very, very loyal, and so I didn't want to leave the industry. And if I did, I think the company would have fallen apart. And I wanted to make sure that my boys had everything they needed to do. And I also do it because it gives me the creative freedom. I think that you probably do what you do because you like being a business owner, you like the freedom, time, creativity, innovation. I have the same kind of thing, but I also am doing what I'm doing in terms of like branching out of RSD's dating side in terms of like the business, music videos, and what have you, because it's also my passion. So it's what I'm creative about. So I guess what I'm trying to do is doing something that's still out of the box. I got stuck in operations. Like you probably got really deep in your operations, and you kind of like, you're still really deep in your operations, you know? Yeah. You're talking about that over dinner. Yeah. But I mean, I think that for my company, a lot of that stuff, the stuff that you're really deep into, and you kind of have to do a little bit of everything, kind of automated into systems.
Okay, so following up on that, at what point did you realize that that's what you needed to do? You needed to automate it, you needed to bring on a team, and what was the process of actually implementing that, and how do you get people that you trust to do that job?
That's a good question. I think that most of the people that we hire have had an intern for us for at least 3 months. Hell, some people interview and then they'll intern because they'll interview like 4 times, feel like they're gonna get denied, and they get into our company. And we actually will deny like most people, but when they intern, they might intern for like up to 3 years for free.
Yeah.
And then they get the job, they're super loyal to us. So these are people that will get involved with our systems because they trust our culture, they like love our product. I'm sure actually in your industry it's the same way. You could probably get a ton of people who just love you because you're producing awesome content, and then you're just going to push them to the next level and get a ton of volunteers. So we developed a volunteer network of almost 1,000 people around the world in 270 cities. And if I personally went on a tour of these cities and just hired people that would help us out for our weekend events. Kind of like how there's like music industry concerts, we'd have like these live events, but it'd also help us remotely for all sorts of things, and we kind of depend on them. Without them, we wouldn't have our company.
Okay, so what factors, because music and both any industry is ever changing and constantly changing and evolving with culture. So I mean, what factors do you consider going forward for the next year and say the next 5 years? Like what are your main factors that you consider for your business climate over the next few years, when you're actually sitting there making a strategy?
The biggest things is social media, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the president one, because this is power in social media. I actually know the social media manager for Trump who helped him win. Actually, I'm hanging out with him for dinner tomorrow at his brother's house. He's been a friend of mine for decades. But I think that social media is replacing the mainstream media in many, many ways in terms of like influencers. I view the mainstream as just a team of influencers. It's just that most of them don't really have any relationship whatsoever to their clients because They're kind of not really with a strong personality. They don't really have anything unique about them. You don't know much about them, for the most part. You know, if I was to ask you, say, you know, tell me about Wolf Blitzer, Anderson Cooper, or Larry King, you'd probably just say, well, they're on these shows, but you don't know much about them. Whereas if you follow a particular person that you really love, that you have a passion for, I think that that's where you get the true power in this world. I think that's going to be the future. I mean, I was interviewing a guy named Tucker Max. Have you heard of him?
No, not familiar.
He wrote this book called I Hope They Serve Beer in Hell. And it was about him picking up chicks, but he then became a business celebrity. There's a movie made about his life. And he said that he believes that the future, every single job, no matter what it is going to be relationship building, no matter what the job is. You know, so no matter what the job is, whether you're a carpenter or anything else, it's going to be about relationships of some kind, because there's so much technology growing so fast that things will change.
Now, all right, Nick, you strike me as the kind of guy who's a rule breaker to an extent. You know, you don't really follow like the norms. When is it okay to break the rules? And when is it not okay?
That's funny. Why do you think I'm a rule breaker?
In general, you don't really follow the norms of most people in your position.
We're a very controversial company for sure. I know the answer. I mean, I was asking rhetorical questions somewhat, but you know, I actually was curious also because, you know, we have a lot of mutual friends. But I think that this company, you know, in terms of like the beliefs and values of it, a lot of it was influenced from mafia movies. But the good stuff, not the bad stuff, like the killing people and the crime, stuff like that. The stuff like you treat your business like your family. You are very loyal to the core. You know, trust in your word is super important. And no matter what happens, you'll do whatever it takes to make sure your goals are accomplished, that kind of stuff. But I mean, in terms of like the rules and boundaries, you know, of what I will and will not tolerate, I mean, we created a program called the Blueprint Decoded about what your personal values are. It was about how you could establish your boundaries, not just with women, but anyone you interact with. So you know what you will and will not tolerate from other people. Like your personal rules and values. Like the people who are in your team, if you trust the most, it's your values that connects you with other people. I mean, I think the most important thing is for, like, say, a marriage or even a business partner is your values. You have to be congruent. And Tyler, my business partner, not you, but my Tyler business partner, Tyler Durden is his nickname, his pen name. His name is Owen Cook. But his belief is that we have a lot of gang mentality. But like I said, the good stuff of the gang. Like, you have like the brotherhood as opposed to, say, just like the atypical, like it's all about the money kind of thing. And so we're just trying to offer as much value as we can to push things forward. Now, in terms of like, for some reason, everyone calls us like badass or, you know,
I would say that,
you know, on the borderline of things. I think the reason why is because we're not the typical in the box thinking of things. I mean, let's say that, you know, we make very, you know, crazy jokes, or we'll do pranks, or we'll do infield videos with hidden cameras. Things that are kind of edgy content, and like what we talk about in terms of like picking up girls. You know, a lot of that goes against a lot of religious fundamental beliefs. But I mean, I think that us is that we just say what we mean. We're kind of silly about it. I mean, a lot of it also is very congruent with those people that are influencing people today. Like if you look at the hip hop industry, you know, a lot of my friends are in the hip hop world. And also some of my friends are even kind of like us. They're kind of trying to get into self-improvement, and they're in the hip hop world, like Nicole Arbor. But all of us say things that are on our mind, whether people like them or not.
It's gotten me in a couple situations in the past. I'm definitely a very opinionated person as well, and I can really identify with what you're saying.
I do believe, though, in the future, though, the people who are like in the mainstream, that are trying to make it look like people who are doing things that are kind of edgy as immoral, I think that's a totally different situation. You know, things that, you know, violate the actual law. You know, I'm studying law at Harvard right now. And, you know, I believe in the law, I believe in order. But at the same time, I believe that you should push the envelope to innovate, to take things to the next level. I think that people confuse art and what people think is art as things that are not art. For example, like look Straight Outta Compton. I was hanging out with the producer at Hip Hop DX's office of the movie Straight Outta Compton. And back in the day, people viewed it as the promotion of gang violence. And I thought that was amazing because what they were doing was they're producing just music, using their words and rhyme, and they're inspiring people with their story. But if you share people's your story, some people will be thinking, okay, this guy's background is not the same as mine, it's very different. What is this guy thinking? How is his involvement in like the public world and getting his name out there? How is that affecting who he is as a person? I think it's interesting, but at the same time, I don't think it changes who you are, how you view the rules or the law.
Now, you did bring up family earlier, which kind of triggered a question in my head. I actually, before I came here, was reading something online. I typed your name into a Google search, and like one of the first news articles was like, you and your wife, and it was like basically in a gist of, well, why is she marrying this man? He's this, but you own a dating system. You teach guys how to pick up chicks. Obviously, what you do, by some people's standards may be considered, like you said, edgy. How do you separate your business and family life, and how do you maintain that family relationship and maintain that honesty and trust within your external life and still be able to do what you do right now?
I mean, people look at what we do, and we create a company where guys are picking up girls, and it's epic. And I was involved with going out and coaching for several years. Now I'm more behind the scenes in terms of the business side of RSD. Of course, I'm very public in terms of like my videos and the content creation and going out there doing events and networking and what have you. But in terms of like the pickup side of RSD, going out to the bars and clubs, guys will be fans, they'll see our boys out in the bars and clubs, but you're not seeing me out very often because I'm not really doing that. So in terms of like my family and like my future kids and all that stuff, I'm still like focused on like a committed relationship. And I think that a lot of people will look at just like the fact that I'm even involved with my company. I mean, I got banned from Singapore on my wedding anniversary just for owning Real Social Dynamics.
Interesting.
I didn't even do anything. And they took me to a detainment facility, which is their version of a jail. It's just that Harry Potter reruns are on repeat. Now, I was with my wife, and they didn't separate us like criminals. They put us together. That was nice.
Just because you own RSD?
So I own RSD, and they put us in this crazy person room with no windows. They left the door open because I'm not a criminal. They're actual crazy people. They closed the door. And we got the first flight out of the country, which is to Moscow. Just because I own RSD. It's crazy because RSD actually adds a lot of value to the world. We help people, we transform people's lives. Because it's about the hookup culture, there's some confusion. But I believe that that's going to change. I wouldn't be surprised if I get unbanned in the future. Just because in the same way that people like Eminem got banned from countries, we have like the same attorney and publicist and voice coach. And like, I know a lot of his story. Got banned from tons of countries just for being Eminem because they thought that he was promoting rape and violence for his music, which is insane. All he's doing is he's telling his story.
It's art,
It's art. And the same thing as us. I mean, we're pickup artists. It's totally different. But I mean, people don't even know what that is. It's a whole new industry. I believe that when the movie comes out, maybe that'll help. Maybe instead of 20% of people knowing who we are, maybe 80% of people know who we are. And as that kind of thing goes out there, I think it's going to help us a lot.
Now, okay, so in my position right now, it's hard for me to imagine, okay, where am I going to be at in 5 years? Where am I going to be at in 10 years? Where am I going to be at in 15 years? Now, the question to you is, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, did you think you'd be in this position? Or did you know you'd be in this position?
Well, you know what? When I started the company, it wasn't intentional. My goal was to go back to New York where I was working in the investment industry, become an investment banker, work at Goldman. I was spending my summers working on Wall Street. I created a financial firm when I was a teenager, when I was 18. Got a license and everything. And I had my own firm. I was at a financial advisory firm. I was a registered investment advisor. I was selling all sorts of investment products to both corporations and individuals. And then I created this company while I was in college instead. I did it because I was interested in myself, learning the skills and how to pick up girls, and we do it awesomely. I was throwing epic parties. Like my parties were featured in every magazine from Playboy to Jane. It was pretty awesome. But at the same time, I didn't really know how to like build rapport, build attraction, all that stuff. These same skill sets also helped me in building my business as I learned them. And I built a mastermind team. I didn't expect this to be like this, but I did after our first year in business. I just had so much faith in Tyler and our team because we have a team of content creators that are massively intelligent and also hitting the field, continually innovating. So I knew that we were going to become a global multi-million-dollar company even in our first year. I mean, our first year though, we made $1 million. So it wasn't a surprise.
So I know we're talking a lot about successes and stuff. What if any, have you had failures, and what have they been, and what was your, I would say, biggest failure, and, what would you have done differently to, rectify that or make it different,
Well, I mean, the most memorable thing that happened to me was in 2008 when the recession hit. And that thing was so impactful in my life that we were losing $6,000 a day net. And I moved out of my apartment into my car, a 1997 Toyota Avalon, because I had to get rid of my BMW. And I didn't have an apartment because I wasn't paying the rent. And I wasn't getting family support. They weren't interested in supporting a pick bars company. So I was living in the back of I was living in a parking lot in the back of a hotel by the airport. And I was still paying them for parking. Because I had a parking fee every day.
Your rent was the parking fee.
Yeah. Now they have internet for free at airport hotels, so I was lucky. But that was really tough. And it was ironic because in that same year, we were rated by Inc. magazine as one of the fastest growing companies in America. I got awards from the White House for our company for just like growing a fast growing company and showing how we were growing. It was crazy. But at the same time, I was living in the car. In the same year of getting these awards, I'm living in a car. And we had to get out of it. So how did I get out of it? Well, at the time, we were primarily based in Los Angeles. So I created this program called the RSD Free Tour. We traveled around the world. I took out the back of an airline magazine a map of all the cities airlines travel to, put dates next to it, and flew to all of these cities 1 to 3 times a day, different cities, and did 4-hour presentations about our company, because we had a website with millions of people on it.
Yeah.
And an email list of several 100,000 people. I said, let me couch surf at your home. And if I could get some interns to drive me around, that'd be great, because I have no money. And at the time, we had about $500,000 in debt, and we're still losing $6,000 a day. And by the time my tour was over, I had no debt. And we had a successful company that was growing. So it was the fact that I believed so much that our content was awesome. If you just put me in front of a room of people, they would see that and they would want to get involved. Like 20% of the people I was in front of paid us like $300 to $2,000.
Yeah.
And I was in front of like 40 to 400 people every single day of the week. In every city. I mean, sometimes I was in front of over 1,000 people. So it was pretty crazy.
I know you talked your team and your content team and how much of an asset they were to you. My question is, in regards to that, is how do you keep your team motivated? How do you keep them fluctuating, and how do you know when they're starting to lose their spark?
I think a lot of our team just loves our product, so that keeps them involved. They're doing something fun. I think the biggest advantage that we have is that we have a lot of flexible hours.
Yeah.
It's not like you have to show up at an office at a particular time and place in a particular city. Our guys can travel in the world. I have my closest executives are living on a beach. Like my executive assistant and my director of human resources, people I talk to every day of the week. They live on a beach in Mauritius. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, so they're doing well.
But I mean, we give them the freedom to travel anywhere they want. And I think that we pay the same as any other company, but we give them freedom. And I think that there's a lot of value in having people in the same city like LA and Vegas, and some people have to do that. But even our LA and Vegas team, they choose their own hours. I mean, our camera guy here, Alfonso, he has certain hours people have to film, but he's still very flexible. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Alfonso, what time do you wake up today? 10. So I mean, most people, they'll go to a job from 9 to 5, they might wake up at 7 in the morning.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll wake up at like the evening. They don't have anything during the day. And we have a lot of people like that. We're very, very flexible.
So my question is, okay, say if someone, on your team, starts acting in a funk or losing their motivation, what steps do you take, to rectify that?
Yeah. A lot of it has to do with what they're doing.
Yeah.
We've had that problem. So if that's the case, we'd have to allocate the roles and responsibilities to something completely different. I've shifted core members of our team from doing like administration to HR to finance to marketing to sales, or vice versa, to different positions. You just have to know that you have to be flexible, because I think that any person can learn any skill as long as they're just normal people, and they have like the same core values of you and they're smart. You can assign these people to anything. You just need to reallocate their roles and try it out, test it. I just test people as soon as I can, the different roles and responsibilities, and see how well they do. And if they don't do a good job, then I'll just move them around.
So going into, you know, attitudes and emotion and stuff, anyone watching this who actually knows me knows that I could be a very, you know, upfront and emotional person sometimes, and I could be very hard-headed and open-minded. You know, I speak my mind. How do you keep yourself? How do you keep your emotions in check when making business decisions, and how do you keep yourself from letting your emotions take over business decisions?
I mean, I'm a very emotional person sometimes also. You know, I'll get angry when business deals are happening because I think I listened to a lot of heavy metal music as a kid. So I just naturally feel like when I'm in the mode and I'm working hard, I'll naturally raise my voice a little bit louder and louder and louder because I'm excited, not because I'm actually angry at a particular person. So I have to be cognizant of that. So I've gone through like seminars on that, like crucial conversations about how to relate and seek first to understand before being understood. And I think a lot of that comes through in my voice in my business meetings. In terms of like, you know, difficult times, I think I picked up golf because of that. I used to do marathons because of that. In fact, I did a marathon or a triathlon every single month while I was on tour, that world tour.
Yeah.
6 months, 270 cities, 70 countries. I did a race every single month. But then I injured my knees, and so now I'm doing golf instead. I think physical sports just get your mind out of things. So I mean, for me, just physically like forcing that energy out of it and getting the emotions come from the chemicals that come from just working out really helped me a lot.
What would you say, like one thing, if you were to name one thing that set you back the most, what would it be?
Well, I think that one thing that dramatically changed our company on a massive level was this thing called Julian Gate. I don't know if you've heard about that. So Julian is an instructor of ours who became Time Magazine's most hated man in the world because he made jokes and the mainstream media said the jokes he was making were serious.
Yeah.
I mean, Fox News and other agencies do that all the time. They suck. But as a result, he got banned from 33 countries. I got banned from Singapore, and we had, in just one night alone, the first night of this campaign, it lasted several months, the first night that happened, 160,000 articles in mainstream outlets wrote about this. And it said that he was promoting violence, which I thought was insane. You know,
Yeah.
We have nothing to do with that, but he was making jokes. But the thing is, what happened was we had vendors leave us, and we had to get better vendors. We had banks freeze hundreds of thousands of dollars of my money for months until I got access to it. And fortunately, we, you know, are a cash strong company, but
Yeah.
these kind of things set me back for quite a while because I had to wait for the money to be unfrozen before I could do my projects. At the same time, it made us stronger because it allows us to build systems and relationships with people that wouldn't care necessarily about what the mainstream thought. And those new partners have given us better rates. The other thing is we had an email list increase of 16x. Our website traffic massively increased. Most of those people were just people who wanted to protest us, organize a riot, or hate us in different cities around the world. But then we started converting these audiences. We started getting emails saying, I hated you guys. And then I started following what you guys are, and I ended up buying your stuff because I actually liked you.
Yeah.
But I mean, we had to put a lot of spin doctoring effort into focusing our company to explain we're not just educators, we're entertainers, we're doing infotainment.
Yeah.
Someone like me, how could someone like me, because everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses, you know, obviously you're good at some things, obviously other people are good at other things. How could someone like me help someone like you?
Well, I think that you know a lot of people in the music industry, and now I'm making music videos about business education because Tyler and I think that in order to convince the mainstream and also to get our message out there and captivate the minds of people, music videos, especially hip hop, is a great way to do it. As opposed to an instrument, you could actually just use your voice and convey who you are. You know a lot of those kind of people. That'd be kind of cool. And also, you're helping me right now by adding content from my YouTube channel.
5 books. If you're going to recommend 5 books to me and anyone else watching right now, what would you recommend?
My favorite is 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, because it was the first book that was about being principle-centered as opposed to being centered on making money or just your family or just work or any kind of obsession. Just focusing on your principles, what they are, and being balanced around that, and everything else follows. I think that was a huge epiphany for me because I was super work focused, just working all the time, whether it was school, my job, what have you. and it really hurt my personal life, my social life, my family life. I mean, and I got addicted to pickup. And that also affected my family, my friends, everything. I just didn't want to hang out with them. It was taking time away from picking up girls. I was focused on the wrong centers. Helped me really balance my life. Another thing was Mastery by George Leonard, just understanding the mastery curve. So it's a book about how to get mastery over any topic whatsoever. And understanding the process of mastery is not just always going up, it's like a broken staircase. Yeah. Where you get success and it goes down, then it goes up, and it goes down, but overall it goes up. And learning how not to view yourself as a competitor to everyone else you're competing against with. Focusing yourself as like an Olympian, you're just trying to improve your own time again and again and again. You can look at standards, but still pushing things forward. Delivering Happiness is great because it's by one of my boys. So it was written by Tony Hsieh. And it was about how he created a corporate culture that was the center of his company. He actually had hundreds of millions of dollars invested into his original company before he sold it for $1 billion. And his investors just created a corporate culture that wasn't fun. So he ended up buying all the shares back because it put so much pressure and changed operations so much. It wasn't the kind of company he wanted. And that's what allowed him to sell his company for $1 billion. Look at our company, it's about corporate culture, more of a brotherhood than like a typical business. And I think that was a huge thing for me. Another thing that I think is really interesting is this book called Traction. I don't know if you heard about this book, but it's about the Entrepreneurial Operating System, EOS. Tracking key performance indicators, your metrics, your numbers, your financials. What is it, the number that's most important for you is going to be different than for me. So it's like, is it how many new customers you have? Is it your revenue? Is it your sales? Is it your metrics for particular aspects of your business? It's your followers, your visitors, and how to track it, improve upon it, and then how to build a team around each of those metrics so that your goal is met, which also reminds me of the last book, which would be The Goal. Have you heard of that book?
No.
It's actually more of a feature film kind of book than a book because it's not even an education book. It's a story book. But the reason why it's called A Goal is because it educates people about a fictitious story of a guy who's operating an industrial plant. So you listen to it on Audible, it's better than reading it as a book because you hear sounds and the voice. And as he goes through the process, he learns the goal is to actually make profit, and by destroying the weakest link and improving upon making it stronger, he could go closer to making that goal. And how he does that, I think it's cool to see that because he gives examples, and those examples could inspire it in your own company.
So I know that your system and your company provides education-based products. Now I'm at a bit of a crossroads in my company where I provide people, and this is where I make my money, education-based services, consulting, PR, but I also provide product-based services, clothing, accessories. What would you say, because I have to allocate my time and I want to make money, what would you say the best ROI would be from either of the two? Like what am I going to get my money back faster with, education-based or product-based?
Well, if you look at what your customers are buying, you can see what percentage of your revenue is what. And that kind of gives you a balance of what your time should be spent on. Yeah. If your customers are buying your physical products, spend more time on that. But I mean, that's how we look at things. So we look at our company, for example, half of our revenue is live programs, half it's digital product. Yeah. So we have the boot camps, the hot seats, the free tours around the world in all these cities, and we have the digital videos, books. So we kind of have like a split revenue. So we split like half our focus on both. So that's how I would determine that, based on the revenue. Now, if you don't have a product or service, if you didn't have a product or service, and you want to experiment with new products and services, then I would beta test it and see what is hooking people. And if you never even sold to a customer, get the first customer as soon as possible, and just get as many of them as possible, so you can find out what they want, because your job is to fulfill a need, not what your need is. Fulfill a need for other people.
So, kind of touching on that, I know everything that you do is kind of really based and rooted in psychology. How important is psychology on the grand scale of everything, and how many times do you implement, tips and tricks throughout the day, to get ahead in business?
Well, I would say that the parallels in terms of like what we teach in terms of game and pickup, and social dynamics, self-actualization, on daily level change, and how to use that through a means of communication, how to convey that to other people, is huge. That inner psychology, what you're talking about, affects your outer psychology in business just as much as your personal life. Like how you interact with girls and your friends, your social life, that'll influence the pieces of your business to create that puzzle. So it completes a full picture of everything. So I mean, I made a whole program called RSC Founders Club, which was just about that topic. And I think the basic principle of it is that you got to understand your customers, you got to understand yourself, you got to push things forward, And the people that I interview, a lot of the people that I'll interview personally, will be people that will convey a lot of the messages, like how to convey value to the world, what kind of values are really important, how to implement your business and create systems so that it surrounds your values. I think that also a lot of thing is the marketing and sales stuff, more importantly, is super important to convey out there. So we spend so much time focusing on pickup, just cold approaching girls at bars and clubs. The same concept works in business. We'll walk up cold to people, we get them on the phone, or go to conventions or meetings and close business deals. And most people are afraid of that because they're afraid of rejection. They have that outcome dependence. I was playing golf with a couple. They own a massive company of like 3,000 to 4,000 people, hiring people, HR people that hire people for other companies, whether it's in accounting, IT, and what have you. And one of the things that they were really curious about for our company is what is it that we would say is like the most important thing that we teach in terms of dating. And I said, well, the most important thing in terms of dating that we teach actually applies to business and to life in general, which is freedom of outcome. The concept that if you have a fear that you're not going to get success, you're going to get a rejection, then if you lose that fear and you view it more like a social scientist, like a social experiment, like you mix chemicals together and something happens, you're looking at a hypothesis and a conclusion. You're not looking at it as a failure if it doesn't meet your hypothesis. You don't care if your hypothesis is not met. You just want as many reference experiences as possible because field experience is king. And people who are engulfed in RC Nation, our customer base, don't think it's kind of a cliche for me to say that because I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
But we popularized it just among that community. And 90% of people out there will think that this is kind of like an epiphany because they won't realize that. And as a result, that fear of rejection, they'll view their success as a barometer of success as a human, as opposed to viewing their success or a failure as just something that happens naturally, and whether you succeed or not. You don't need to get excited, you don't need to get disappointed, you just need to look at those reference experiences.
So touching on that, at what point did you know that you yourself were successful, and did you feel confident enough to actually speak about your successes to other people?
I talk about our successes to people so often that people will call us names all the time. Like they'll say, "Wow, you're just so arrogant," or what have you.
Yeah,
you know,
I get that a lot too.
we get that all the time. In terms of success, I view success for me as just being able to, live my life and doing something that I have fun doing, regardless of what people think about what I'm doing. So I'm doing that now, but I think that you can do that no matter how much money you have, as long as you have enough to pay the bills, like food and lodgings and transportation. So those are like the three things that everyone needs.
Even if you're in a parking lot.
Well, yeah. And I would say though that outside of where I was living, my life didn't change at all.
Yeah.
So between now, where I'm living in this mansion, probably the largest estate in the Hollywood Hills, and I also have a house in Vegas, I think the only difference between that and living in the back of the parking lot is this concept that Torin told me about. Torin Pavia is someone who I released a video with who made over $2 billion selling what I call sandboxes, institutional computer servers. They're boxes that are made of sand that now are processing large amounts of information on the internet. But he said that the difference between him when he was starting off and he was poor and now is just two things, which is where he lives, which is a nicer house, and transportation. He flies on a private jet. So you can fly private more often, and you can live in a nicer house. But who you interact with, your friends, stays the same, your family stays the same. There's only so much money you can spend at a restaurant or a grocery store. Maybe your entertainment is slightly different. Like you might be able to afford nicer tickets at a basketball game if you're going to see the LA Lakers. Maybe you have a nicer car. That's part of the transportation part. But most of your life stays exactly the same. And your happiness doesn't necessarily change based on your wealth, for sure.
So, I grew up with a lot of wealthy people, and I ask this question a lot. You have a lot, but what do you want most that you don't have?
Well, I think that what I want to have is I want to have successful children. Next year I'm going to have twins, a boy and a girl. So I like to see them become successful. I like to get my golf game up. I like to improve my mastery. In fact, I track every hour of golf, and I view it as an analogy to gain mastery in anything. If I could pick up golf in my 30s, because I started golf about a year ago from when we met, and I think that it's something that I think would prove that I could accomplish something and push things forward. I also want to grow this company and accomplish my business partner's vision and goal. His goal is to try to help and influence as many people as possible. My skill set is in building systems to accomplish goals. So he's going to do that in not just dating, but also in wealth building, higher purpose, and fitness. So we have a team of people that we're building as influencers, take that to the next level, and I have to build systems for that.
Okay, last question that I'm going to ask you is if you could just give it in one sentence, why are you here?
I guess that's the question of the purpose of life, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like everyone chooses their own purpose, and no matter what that is, there's no judgment. My purpose is to be a good family man, be a good husband to my wife, be a good friend to my friends, support my business, and I think that is probably the main thing, and it's probably in that particular chronological order.
If I've got a great idea, but no capital to actually launch that idea, but I know it's a great idea, I know it's a great service, what are the steps I would take to launch that?
Well, the first thing is get the money for it, and how I did that was I didn't start off with money. I contacted people and I said, here's the exact product and service I'm going to give you. Give me a deposit of $200. The whole product is $600. And basically you just pay the balance when you get your product. And that allowed me to get the funds to travel to cities like, well, pretty much all over the world and create that product for these people and do it. Other people will use their credit cards or a student loan or like any
Money
kind of
doesn't
loan.
exist.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But that's the best way. That's why we say get your first customer, because I did it to fund everything. And that financial process changed everything.
How do you, in your opinion, make money from your identity and your personal image and actually, licensing out your actual likeness and personal image?
Well, in terms of like our people, they all have a very public persona that kind of builds relationships to our customers, and therefore we make money off our own products and services that they sell. Now, a lot of my friends that are celebrities that are in, like, say, entertainment, video games, music, film, they'll get corporate sponsors. And now we're chasing corporate sponsors, and we have some. People that will pay us money, and they'll give us their products and services for free. But they'll do that based on how many subscribers or followers you have on the various social media networks you have, or if your brand partnership looks good. But if you have a loyal following, no matter what a random journalist or what a random influencer says about you, your loyal following is true to you, relates to you, knows you for you. And that's how you really gotta do it. Similar to how religion has like Jesus Christ or like that Messiah. You're that for your followers on a particular topic of their life.
Fair enough, yeah. I find it hard because I have to carefully, I never used to do this, but I used to be very open on my social medias, and I would just say, things that didn't matter. And I've learned, if you want to curate a public image and a brand, you have to give people what they want. You have to give value when you speak. You have to give someone something when you speak. How do you not show the cracks? You go out and, sometimes you just want to, explode, kind of just like, but the public can't see that, so you gotta have to internalize it. Like, what do you do to work through those processes?
Well, our public sees our explosions all the time. We're very honest about pretty much every aspect of our lives. Most people will like attack that stuff because the mainstream media will try to attack those little chips. I don't believe that's going to last. I believe that the public does want to know your failures, they can relate to you. Want to know your successes so they can relate to you. And the fact that the media, the mainstream historically, has so focused on those bad things and try to make it that's who you are as a person, I don't think it's going to be possible in the future because social media is going to be so prevalent. People just look at your profile, so you know your friends, see your friends, and know that you are who you are. And I think that's how the media has to change, or else they're going to be out of business because they're just going to be viewed as too biased. And I believe that is going to affect everything from politics and elections, to how you're viewed in business and society. So many people are confused, and they believe that if a particular brand is partnered with them, just because other people view it in a certain way, it's going to be bad for their brand in such a negative way they can't associate with them, that's going to disappear completely. Because people are just going to do their own research. And I think influencers and social media is just going to bring it out. A lot of people view social media as like, oh wow, I don't know if I can trust this stuff because there's too many people. They'll view that internet troll who's always talking crap about something, and they'll view that as what social media is. But then you view like every single other person on the planet, and every single person on the planet is involved in some way. I believe that's the future, how things are going to change.
There's a company that I used to work with that they're getting pretty big right now. They're called Cymatics. They make sample packs, like music sample packs and anything. The reason why I'm mentioning them is because the reason why they got so big and they went to I think they're about a $500,000 a year company in about a year is because they give their followers value. They do a lot of giveaways. They give a lot of free stuff away, but none of the things they give away are anything tangible. They're just all things that are online digital goods. Is that a strategy you would recommend?
Well, if people view those digital goods as value, it's great. I mean, I know a guy who just sold virtual items on video games and made $3.5 million. He's a millionaire just from selling items that don't necessarily have good. I mean, if you look at virtual currency like Bitcoin, I was interviewing a guy who trades hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars. That's like more than some countries own in currency that has no tangible value whatsoever. It's not even recognized by the governments of countries.
Yeah.
It's very interesting to me how, that whole intangible goods market is coming to play now, and how we can actually profit off of it. And at what point is it giving too much away for free and giving people value,
Well, people value whatever they want. That's how the stock market exists. It's not like there's numbers and then people manipulate a system and then there's actual value. It's just what people view what stocks are worth, what people view companies are worth. That's how the stock market works. And the same thing happens with any kind of good, whether it's tangible or intangible, where it belongs to a company, where it's personal. I mean, love is one of those concepts. People view it and value it in a certain way. Religion is another one. But I mean, the perceived value goes up and down for every single person. Overall, there's a global market for pretty much every intangible value, whether it's a moral value or an actual commodity or service.
What should I spend my budget on in terms of marketing, and how do I go about targeting and figuring out what my demographic is best?
That's a good question, because we were talking over dinner like a few days ago just about your marketing budget. I was really curious about how you were doing that.
Yeah.
I think the best thing you could do for marketing is the grassroots guerrilla style stuff, as opposed to focusing on paid generic advertising, having extremely targeted advertising. Now, retargeting helps a lot, because I know you could spend like $15 on, say, Facebook retargeting ads, make like $5,000, because you're hitting customers who already demonstrate interest in you, hitting visitors who are already interested in you. And social media and the internet is a great way to hit the masses fast. So I don't think there's any better way right now. There may be in the future, but that's the way to do things. Now, other than that, getting in front of people face to face. I mean, if you could just doing lunches with highly targeted people, dinners with highly targeted people, or seminars with highly targeted people, face to face is still how you build relationships. I was asked, how is the cell phone and internet affecting relationships? Do you think it's hurting it or helping it? I think it's helping it, because it's getting people to meet with you face to face. Because I believe that going face to face with people, something they can see or touch or build a relationship, nothing's going to ever replace that. Never. I don't think technology or social media is just going to replace real world interactions ever. And we've seen that. I mean, there was a guy who was the Unabomber. He believed that who wrote a manifesto, and he started killing people that was evolving technology and the belief that was going to destroy all relationships. He was wrong. It actually allowed people to stay, instead of writing letters and saying PayPals, or saying pen pals. I've lost most of those pen pals. I've never had a pen pal and stayed a friend of mine. You have like Facebook friends though, the chance of you meeting up with those people is very high relative to pen pals.
Well, yeah.
And it's going to continue to evolve as we refine the systems and the way technology can allow people to interact with each other. We look at what we do. We build our own social media network. We build our own phone app.
Now, do you think that has an impact on the aspects? Do you think over the next 10 years, your psychology methods and stuff, you think that the growth of social media and this digital culture is going to have impacts on some of your executions and methods?
Definitely. We always evolve. Every single month we release new products because things change. We have new ways of interacting with the world. We have online dating now. In the future, we might even have VR dating or virtual reality dating. We'll have all sorts of new products and services in the future, going covertly and new ways of doing it in better ways. And so there's always going to be innovation. In terms of psychology for our content, our products, that's how it works. But the same thing's going to work for every other company out there. They're going to have to stay in the cutting edge, or else they're going to go the way of like Kodak, rolled cameras. Now Canon and Sony do, which is amazing.
Awesome, thank you, Nick. I really appreciate the chat.
This is fun. You did a good job. Most people who are watching this YouTube channel don't even ask one question. So if you have questions, post them in the comments of my video, because I would love to answer them. And I really appreciate you coming down here, and it really helps me develop the content, because the main reason why I created this channel is to ask questions from people, get questions answered from people like yourself, answer them, and disseminate the information, because there's a limited number of episodes I'm putting out there, and as soon as I'm done, I kind of know the direction I want to, take my curriculum and content, I'm going to stop. So this is your chance now to really influence that.
Thank you for having me out. Thank you guys for watching. You guys can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, at Tyler Burrett. My name's spelled Tyler, B-U-R-R-E-T-T. Follow TrapStyle, trapstyle.com, soundcloud.com/trapstyle. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
Cool. Cheers.